Well, hello, Greg coming here from Good News for Israel. It's wonderful to be with you and sharing some time together. Selah, pausing and considering the Lord. What a great thing to do. I just enjoy that. It's one of my favourite things to do, is just pause and bring my heart back into alignment with the Lord. Well, we're looking at the subject of the sons of the prophets. We've been looking at the master prophet, and we're going to pick up the story around this point in 2 Kings chapter 2. But before the old master prophet Elijah he left this world, the Lord sent him to Bethel, most likely to tell his disciples, the sons of the prophets who were at Bethel, that he was going to be taken away. So this was the personal goodbye from their master. So 2 Kings chapter 2 verse 1, and it came to pass when the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven by a whirlwind, that Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. And Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, please, for the Lord has sent me on to Bethel." But Elisha said, "As the Lord lives and as your soul lives, I will not leave you." So they went down to Bethel. So this is how I sort of picture it. The Lord decided that Elijah's time on earth was complete and was about to take Elijah up to heaven. So he sent Elijah to the young men, the sons of the prophets that he was overseeing. And one of those places was Bethel, and this was for him to say goodbye to them. He and Elisha were in Gilgal at the time, down in the Jordan Valley near Jericho. And Bethel, if you know, is right up on top of the hill, about 25 kilometres away. So that's a fair hike. It's about an 8-hour walk up the hill. And Elijah tried to dissuade Elisha from coming because he knew that he'd be coming back past Gilgal later, which we know that he came back in that direction. But Elisha would not be dissuaded. So the old gnarly prophet, who knew the young men in Bethel personally, he was like a father to them and a mentor and a rabbi, and he wanted to give his personal farewell to them. So together Elijah and Elisha walked up the mountain to Bethel, and they probably arrived, no doubt, late in the afternoon, and most likely stayed the night in Bethel. And perhaps Elijah wanted to meet them personally with the young men, so did so without Elisha. So maybe while Elisha was asleep, Elijah met with the men around a fire, as he'd done, I'm sure, many times before. And as they sat around the fire, eating some bread and looking at the flicker of the flames dancing on his old wrinkled face, as he spoke and said something like, "God has told me that I'm going to be taken today. I wanted to come and say goodbye and to thank you all for all your assistance to me and for being great students. Boaz, you have great potential. Young David, remember to pray a bit longer at night time. Oh, little Mordecai, try and smile some more. As I've told you before, God has chosen my replacement, Elisha. Honour him as you've honoured me. Now tomorrow I must go and say my goodbyes down to the disciples in Jericho. So this is goodbye." And so that would have been something like that. I mean, that's how we would probably do it. And there were mixed feelings and lots of questions. And there was, in Bethel, round the fire there, Elijah talked. Few last minute instructions into the evening, late into the evening, after which I'm sure he prayed for them. They might have sung a song, and then they all went to sleep. Now, the next morning, the young men were all pretty sad and excited at the same time by the news of the departure of the master prophet, and they all hurried over to Elisha to tell him the news. And Elisha was probably just waking up and gathering his things together so as to join Elijah on his trek back down the mountain. And we pick up that story in 2 Kings chapter 2 and verse 3. Verse 3. Now the sons of the prophets who were at Bethel came out to Elisha and said to him, "Do you know that the Lord will take away your master from over you today?" And he said, "Yes, I know. Keep silent." So Elisha joined Elijah as he started his descent from Bethel back down the mountain to Jericho in order to say farewells to the sons of the prophets in Jericho. But again, Elijah tried to dissuade Elisha from coming on this personal business. 2 Kings chapter 2 verse 4 said, "Then Elijah said to him, Elisha, stay here, please, for the Lord has sent me to Jericho." And, of course, Elisha answered in the same way, "As the Lord lives and as your soul lives, I will not leave you." So they came down to Jericho. And so down they walked, the same way that they walked up from Bethel to from Jericho to Bethel. They walked down from Bethel to Jericho, 25 k's away, about 6 to 8 Ours downhill will probably be a bit quicker. And Elijah got there and he said his goodbyes to all of the sons of the prophets in Jericho. And they were just as eager to tell Elisha as well. So 2 Kings chapter 2 and verse 5 says, "Now the sons of the prophets who were at Jericho came to Elisha and said to him, 'Do you know that the Lord will take away your master from you over you today?' And he answered, 'Yes, I know. Keep silent.' Then Elijah knew it was time to go to heaven. Where would his departure take place from earth to heaven? Well, we're not told the exact point of departure, but Scripture tells us that he had just walked from Gilgal to Bethel, Bethel to Jericho, and when Elijah and Elisha came to the Jordan River and looked across the wilderness area, this was the exact region, the spot where Moses and the children of Israel had gathered for Moses' final speech, and where Joshua had led them to cross the river to enter the promised land more than 500 years earlier. Of course, Elijah and Elisha were on the western side of the Jordan, and Moses and the people would have been on the other side of the Jordan River. After his address, Moses had then walked up Mount Nebo, which was in Moab, never to be seen again. So understandably, the sons of the prophets were standing off in the distance watching them. They knew all of this, of course, from their training. And in verse 6 we see, "And Elijah said to Elisha, 'Stay here, please, for the Lord has sent me on to the Jordan.' But Elisha said, 'As the Lord lives and as your soul lives, I will not leave you.' So the two of them went on. And the 50 men of the sons of the prophets went and stood facing them at a distance while the two of them stood by the Jordan." Can you picture this? 50 men facing them, standing at the Jordan. They were a long way off. And so now the master prophet had said his goodbyes to his disciples in Gilgal and Bethel and Jericho, and all that was left was for the Lord to take him. So is there a man or a woman of God that's played a big part in your life? Who are they? And why have they been such a significant influence in your life? Why don't you take a moment to honour them now? Tell us all who they were and why you value them so much. Why don't you drop them a line and thank them before their time on this earth is finished? This is your great chance to bring them the honour and blessing that they deserve. Well, that's it from me. Thank you for being with me as we took 5 and Selah and pause and consider. Please subscribe so that you can get the next videos, or we can notify of those. And keep up to date with all that's going on before the great return of the Lord. In the meantime, I pray that you have a fantastic day, and the Lord bless you, and bye for now.